be surprised if today's ratings were actually quite high, because I think a lot of people would have tuned in to be like, what is Holly going to say after, having spent 14 years on air with this guy, and how is she going to be next to Josie? But I think, yeah, time will tell. We don't know what the future plans are in terms of, we only know this week Josie will be back on again tomorrow, and then Wednesday and Thursday will be Craig with Holly, and then we don't know what's going to happen after that.
Of that, Ellie, Holly Willoughby laying on the drama and the emotion pretty heavily, let's say.
Yeah, I think the problem is that you've got to compare, and people are comparing Holly Willoughby's statement to the statement that, well, the reaction that Alison Hammond had at the end of last week on This Morning. And Alison Hammond was in tears. She was really honest. It was a very raw emotion where she said, I'm so conflicted. I love Phillip Schofield, but he's done this bad thing. And then Holly's statement today just felt very, very scripted, which we knew it would be. But even to the point where she was like, okay, deep breath, that felt very over prepared. And so people are receiving it as something that felt quite insincere.
Yeah.
A little bit patronizing when she said, are you okay? People at the beginning, I know that a lot of people watching were like, oh, is she talking to someone behind the camera? And actually, no, she was talking to the country. Are you okay that my co-host is no longer here? It just felt a bit odd. And also a lot of people have picked up on the fact that she said, it's hard to see the toll it's taken on his mental health, but we're also hyper aware that she's just been studying up in Portugal for 2 weeks, hasn't texted him back. So it's a bit like, okay, are you that bothered by it? Are you trying to help? So it just was a little bit jarring to watch.
Yeah.
And also then to see the hug with Josie, which felt a little bit, again, a bit staged, because we know they're not particularly great friends. And also her use of language is really interesting, because although she did name Phil, she was very conscious of saying them, themselves, then they did this, rather than just saying Phil's stepped down, Phil's done this, and we feel bad for Phil, hope he's okay. The detachment was very much there, and she set out the stall quite quickly, in the sense that she was like, we're moving on. And by we, I mean me, Alison, Craig, the 5 presenters who are moving forward with the show. That's it, it's done, move on now. And then very quickly switched back into kind of, sparkly golden girl of television, happy-go-lucky. So it was just quite odd, I would say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will agree with that pretty clearly. So you're going to consign Phillip Schofield to history with that statement. And what about Schofield himself? That sort of rearguard action, should we call it that, in the media over the weekend? The picture with his mother and so on. What was he trying to achieve, do you think, Ellie? Is it about rehabilitating his reputation? Is it about maybe keeping comeback hopes alive, however remote that may seem? What do you think?
I would say he probably does have some comeback hopes alive. He might not audibly say that, but this has been his career for 40 years, so how could he not want to do that? The pictures were very odd because they look completely staged again, but also Phil and Holly, both people who've worked in this media landscape for a long time, and they have people around them who would maybe help orchestrate narratives and things like that. I think, yeah, possibly he's hoping for some kind of comeback, knowing it's not in the foreseeable, but to do, 2 massive interviews, one that got drip fed in bits and bobs, and then to kind of hit back at stuff on Instagram stories, and then these pictures. It seems at odds with him saying, I just want this to go away now. I just want to go back to living a normal life and moving forward.
Yes.
But then why are you courting the press so much? Surely one interview, setting out your stall, being very concise, this, that, move on, would do more than the way it seems to have gone, the way he's done it.
And just lastly and briefly, Ellie, a huge part of the background to this is cold, hard business. I mean, where has all this left the network and its relationship with the audience, ratings and advertising?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if today's ratings were actually quite high, because I think a lot of people would have tuned in to be like, what is Holly going to say after, having spent 14 years on air with this guy, and how is she going to be next to Josie? But I think, yeah, time will tell. We don't know what the future plans are in terms of, we only know this week Josie will be back on again tomorrow, and then Wednesday and Thursday will be Craig with Holly, and then we don't know what's going to happen after that. Will it continue in this rotating saga, or are they essentially screen testing people live to find a permanent co-host for Holly? And I think the thing that will help them define that over the coming weeks will be how audiences react, and the best way of telling that is a mix of viewer ratings and social media feedback. As much as people don't want to admit to it, people are very honest on social media. You can have the best and the worst of opinions. And so if you take an overall view of what's coming across there, it gives you a good indication of whether people are going to buy back into This Morning as a brand, or whether they need to think of something else to move forward with in the
All right.
future, whether
Okay.
that comes in September with the new school year.
All right. Great to talk to you.